Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live, powered by Riverwind Casino. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune. We got Spencer Forsythe on the board. Parker, you look like you got some sun. We'll
I
talk
did
about
get
that
some
here.
sun.
I mean, a lot of sun.
I did
We'll
get some
talk. We'll
sun.
talk about that here in just a minute. No spring game. We're obviously going to discuss recruiting. Big visit weekend for Oklahoma. Oklahoma on the bubble for basketball. Still somehow this historically bad bubble is working in Oklahoma's favor, even though they can't win. We'll talk about that. Obviously, we're going to talk about spring. We're going to talk about Media Day that's coming up on Wednesday, which is a really, really amazing lineup that they're giving us as far as interviews go. How many players are we getting? Like 30?
It's in the neighborhood of 30. I mean, it's all the newcomers,
Yeah, it's
right? So all
ridiculous.
of the
It's
early
awesome.
enrollee freshmen, which
John Mateer for the first time.
16, 16 in total, because Marcus James and CJ Nixon are the only exceptions.
Yep.
And then all of the transfers, which what, 12, 13? So yeah, close to 30.
Yeah. And we're going to discuss all of that right here for you guys. But first, we want to thank our sponsors.
That we do, and it starts with our presenting sponsor, Riverwind Casino. Now, Sooner fans, you deserve the ultimate gaming experience. That is Riverwind Casino, which has been the Metro's premier gaming destination for over 18 years. Over 2,800 electronic games, table games, bars and dining options, plus the best live music in the Metro. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Also, want to get a quick word in for our friends at Mando. Now, if you're not familiar with Mando, odds are, if you've listened before, you've watched before, you've heard me and Brandon talk about Mando. Mando whole body deodorant is safe to use anywhere on your body. It was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. It's clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. So, Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers because it gives you the solid stick deodorant, the cream tube deodorant, two free products of your choice, like the mini body wash and the deodorant wipes, as well as free shipping. Now, the great thing about the starter pack is, yeah, you're going to get the whole body deodorant, but you'll also get to try a little sampling of basically everything Mando has to offer. The bourbon leather body wash is a particular favorite of mine and Brandon's. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use code INSIDER at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
All right, let's start. No spring thoughts. No
No
spring game,
spring
excuse
game,
me.
man.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, no spring. That would be catastrophic. No spring game, man. Okay, I'll say this.
They've just wiped out spring practice
A lot
altogether.
of
No OTAs, no
a
nothing.
lot of the alumni that I've spoken to today, especially some uh from the older generation, are pissed.
They should be.
They hate this because they feel like, well, and it's a combination of a lot of things that's led up to this, right? But I think
Mhm.
taking away the spring game because you're worried about tampering is just another sign to all of those people that college football is not what it used to be, and it never will be what it used to be. It's evolving before our very eyes in real time. We're seeing the professionalization of college sports in so many different ways, so many different facets. And candidly, Brandon, I don't love this. I understand why it makes sense for Oklahoma. I understand why they feel the need to move away from a spring game, especially given that so many other big time programs have done the same in recent weeks. But this is yet another bastion of college football tradition that is going by the wayside in the name of the new money driven era of the sport. So I think it's unfortunate. I think it strips away yet another thing that makes the pageantry of college football unique and special. It deprives a lot of alumni of a natural opportunity to congregate back in their college town over something special like OU football. Not to say you
Yeah.
can't do the same for a practice or the Crimson Combine or whatever, but it's obviously not the same type of feel. It's never
Right.
going to feel the same. No matter what you replace the spring game with, it's never going to feel like it once did. You're never going to feel like, okay, this is my first good look at the product that Oklahoma is going to put out on the field this fall. You're going to see a bunch
Yeah.
of guys in dry fit attire doing drills and stuff, right? And it's just, it doesn't get you juiced for the new
Yeah.
football season, I think, the way that the spring game typically would. So again, understand why OU feels this is necessary. Certainly understand that this is kind of where college football is headed. Understand that at least for the time being, this is what makes the most sense for the athletic department. But it's unfortunate that the spring
Yeah.
game as we know it has to, for all intents and purposes, come to an end.
Well, do you want my abridged version of my thoughts here? Or do you want me to
Give
just
us the
go all?
abridged version. We have a lot of
You,
ground to
yeah.
cover
Do you want
tonight.
me to? But I'll just go all in on it. In an abridged way. It's a bunch of BS, is what it is. You want the fans to be engaged. You want them to know the players, to feel like they know who they're sending their dollar to, because guess what? You're asking for money now. And yet you're taking away the one thing that they enjoy in the spring. They still have a bad taste in their mouth from 6 and 7. There was hope when you signed John Mateer. There was hope when Ben Arbuckle became the offensive coordinator. There was hope, right, when Kendall Daniels and Marvin Jones Jr. become Sooners. There's hope when Jim Nagy becomes the general manager at the University of Oklahoma. All of this hope, all of this goodwill, all of these things moving in a positive direction, trajectory for the University of Oklahoma. And then you say, you know what? You can't watch it or see it until we say you can. And that's going to happen in August or September. Sorry. Sorry. But hey, please, please come to this event and give us your money. Please come to this event and shake the hands of the players that you can't watch play in spring or anything like that, because there might be tampering. Somebody may see how good a player plays in a spring game, and then their agent may talk to another agent or talk to another general manager. And guess what? Guess what? The NFL has the same crap. These people are under contracts, right? Like, I think there are a lot of, and I understand that you lose out on players potentially if that happens. That's life. That's life. But you're going to have nothing if the fans don't want to be there. They make college football. Those players don't get paid without the fans. They don't get paid without the boosters who are fans. The university athletic department doesn't make money without the fans. And you don't even have to have, like, why can't you just like do what a lot of teams do, and or what Ohio State did last year, where they just came out and said, hey, guess what? We're going to let you watch the guys warm up. We're going to do a soft go through of drills and stuff like that with the starters. At least let them see John Mateer throw. At least let them see him do things in a football manner. And then let the young guys hash it out in the spring game so that they can see what the future might look like too. Nobody's asking for a full-on game. Potential guys to get injured. Nobody wants that. But if you're not going to do it, I said this last week, Parker, why can't you do what the NFL does? Why can't you hold open practices on Owen Field for $35 a pop and let them go and watch spring practice for like 4, 5, 6 times? I just can't. Like, I don't understand. Why can't you do a scrimmage? You're going to do it anyways. You're going to have full contact scrimmage, Parker. They're going to do it behind closed doors. Why not just one? Where the fans? No television, No nothing. Let the fans come in there. They can show the highlights like they do in a game or whatever. Because guess what? In season, if a player decides, you know what, I want to transfer, and they're having a really good year because somebody hit up their agent and they stop playing in the middle of the season, Parker, that happens then too. We've seen it happen. Spring game's not going to stop it. Letting the fans see is not going to stop it.
For those
It's
of
I don't know. It's just crazy. I
for
hate
those
it for the fans.
Yeah, for those of you that are tuning in live on YouTube, if you have a question for us throughout the show, please do us a favor, send it to us in super chat form. That will ensure that we address the question. We can't promise that we'll address every single question via the standard chat because there are so many that pile up throughout the show. But if you send us a super chat, we will answer and address every single one before we go off the air this evening. So obviously that's the big news of the day. No spring game at Oklahoma. Not totally unforeseen news, but
No,
there
no,
was there
you can
was
see it
hope that
coming.
Oklahoma was going to hold out. There was I think what's interesting, Brandon, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and let me know if you see this differently than I do, but I feel that the programs that should be legitimately worried about other programs poaching their talent based on spring game tape, well, those are the G5 schools. And all of the
Mhm.
G5 schools are still doing their spring games.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, here's the thing: like, OU's NIL is in a good enough position that if somebody decided, you know what, we want to go poach, like, I don't even know, like, who does Oklahoma have that the world doesn't already know about?
That's what I'm saying. Like, who on the roster is going to surprise you, you know?
Maybe Elijah Thomas. Well, guess what? He's from freaking Shakota, Oklahoma. He's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, well, and everybody that watched his high school tape knew he was the
Yeah,
real
it's not.
deal.
It's not. Yeah, he's a top
Like,
250 player in the
what are you
country.
going to see that's going to shock you?
Yeah,
I guess okay. Boy, Jaron Kanik is a stud at tight end. Okay, like
yeah,
maybe that would be surprising, but again, like, what are you worried about?
yeah. And look, I get the no big deal side too from some fans. Like it's not a big deal, but it is because like this is some of these fans that don't have enough money to go see a game during the season. This was their chance to go watch what they grew up loving, and that's the part that I hate the most. And I don't know why they can't figure out a way to meet in the middle. Like I said, a couple of open practices. Like, come on, man. Like, sure, maybe somebody's gonna come scout from another team, but they they watch our videos that we put up on YouTube. They read the message boards of all the stuff that's going on and the insider information of who's doing what and this and that. Like, nothing shocking. Nothing shocking. Like everybody knew Jaden Jackson was going to be amazing last year. And guess what? People tried to poach him before the season. Guess what? Oklahoma made it work. You're a freaking SEC school. Excuse me, but make the shit work, Parker. Just make it work. Make it work. Stop with the excuses.
So
No.
as we shift gears here, now that we've discussed the spring game in all of its former glory, as we shift gears to recruiting, major updates in the class of 2026 recruiting rankings this morning
Mm,
over at Rivals. A new Rivals 250, a very thorough update in the state of Oklahoma, which we can dig into. But of note, certainly, Mason James finally moves into the top 250. He
that
is
he
right
did.
there neck and neck with Taj Overton for the distinction of being the top player in the state of Oklahoma. Overton, number 210 in the nation. Mason James, number 215 in the nation. Now, if we go a little bit higher and we expand things to the national horizon, then obviously an offensive tackle that Oklahoma is going to get the last shot at in OV season, a guy that we've talked about extensively, Felix Ojo, earned his fifth star today. He's up to number 11 nationally. And make no mistake, he will contend for the distinction of being the number one prospect in the country when all is said and done. He's that good. But uh, some Oklahoma commits had notable movement. Jaden O'Neal dropped a few spots, is what it is. Passive drop, be that as it may. One of the big risers and a guy that also had a very strong performance at the Rivals camp this past weekend out in Los Angeles was a guy that we haven't talked about a whole heck of a lot, naturally, because he kind of committed out of nowhere, and it was not too long ago that it happened. But Oklahoma wide receiver commit Daniel Odom knocking on the door of
Yep.
being a top 100 player in the nation with the latest update. Brandon, one of the biggest risers in the entire 250.
Yeah, he balled out this weekend at the Rivals camp, and it showed. Like I was told that that was kind of the cherry on top, right? Like that kind of solidified everybody's thoughts on him, and they sent us out late last night the precursor of the or the I guess the prelude, the preview of the rankings, and that was one of the biggest ones that stood out to me for sure. Right? Like he Oklahoma better hold on to him. But you know the easiest way to hold on to him?
Just hold on to Jaden O'Neal.
Hold on to your top 100 quarterback. Pretty
Simple as
simple.
that.
Pretty simple. Stop playing around. Stop playing around. But this weekend, somebody is visiting that, you know, Bo Bentley will be in town with Mama, supposedly.
Will. Yeah.
So Mom didn't get to visit last time, so that'll be interesting to see.
Now, Jaden O'Neal did earn a golden ball yesterday at the Rivals camp in Los Angeles. He did earn an invite to the Rivals 5-star in Jacksonville this summer. Is it in Jacksonville? I guess I don't know. It was in Jacksonville last year. I assume it's in
But
Jacksonville again.
yeah, is it? I think they're solidifying. It's supposed to be Atlanta, Jacksonville, or Tampa, from my understanding.
Gotcha. Ooh, Tampa would be fun. I haven't been to Tampa in way too long. Fun city.
Tampa is fun. I would love to. I
Fun
was there
city.
last summer. Or no, I
So
was in December. December. I sent you a text, right? From the
that's right.
stadium.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun times. So
Huh.
Jaden O'Neal, strong performance at the Rivals camp to be expected from the Sooners' standout quarterback commit. Then you have Daniel Odom taking a big jump in the rankings. You got Mason James moving up. Another guy that moved up that Oklahoma's not only right there in the thick of it for, but leading for. Alger Miles, the wide
Yeah.
receiver out of Kaufman, Texas. Again, not shocking after his performance at UA Next. The only thing that was kind of shocking was I thought he'd be in the 250. The fact
Yeah.
that he wasn't, the fact that, and this is no knock on Zion Robinson, who is an excellent player in his own right, but the fact that Zion Robinson jumped into the 250 after that UA Next camp down in Melissa and
That
Alger
was
Miles did not,
surprising. Yeah.
yeah,
That was
not sure what to
surprising.
make of that. But we understand what he is as a player. Oklahoma understands what he is as a player. He picked up
Mhm.
another big offer tonight from Texas A&M, but he's got 7 OVs locked in. The last of those will be Oklahoma.
7 OVs, dude. What the heck?
I know, man.
Oh,
I guess if you're Oklahoma, you just hope he isn't exhausted by the end of it. You hope he's not just tapped out in the whole process.
I bet he cancels a couple of them in between there. Just my
He
bet.
may.
Yep.
I mean, the school that he's long been serious about besides Oklahoma is SMU. But like, you really feel the need to take an OV to like Texas Tech at this point? I mean, maybe if you want to see what kind of money they'll put in front of you, I guess I get that. But
I don't.
what Alger Miles likes has never really changed throughout the whole process. Or should I say who he likes? It's always been Oklahoma, SMU, the field.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that he's slowly getting to have a solid relationship once again with the lead peer-to-peer recruiter in the 2026 class, and that is Jaden O'Neal, who's just been phenomenal as far as that goes. So I think as long as you can keep him, you're probably going to end up with a really good wide receiver class. I mean, just and obviously Emmett Jones is recruiting, so that helps too. So um, I like the Mason James one, probably the move up more than anybody else, because that's something you and I have probably been bugging the living crap out of everybody on a national
Oh, I know I
perspective
have.
about for I have, yeah, I have too. I've sent many emails and text messages about that, and finally it's worked. Kind of tag team that bad boy a little bit, and glad to see him getting his due. And I would bet he continues to move up. I we'll see though. Um, you were we can talk about the 7-on-7 event I was at in Tulsa this weekend, and who I watched here in just a minute. But you were at Houston?
Houston for end zone.
Yep.
Yes. Got the
Ha-
chance to check in with several guys that
yep.
OU is actively recruiting. Obviously, the big one was Zane Rowe, the outstanding four-star 2027 defensive end that at one time was committed to Oklahoma. He backed off that pledge in January. Still evaluating all his options. And as we've reported on OUinsider.com, still very heavily considering Oklahoma. Now,
Yeah.
he is in absolutely no rush to make a decision. Like
He is not.
he understands that he rushed it the first time around. I mean, he committed before he was done with his freshman year of high school. It was way early. And he acknowledged that to me. He said, "Look, I made a decision out of what amounts to youthful ignorance, right? And I need to make sure I check every box. I need to be thorough with the process, evaluate what I like, who likes me, and make sure that when it does come time to make a final decision, I'm making the right one, not an emotional one." And he said, "Look, I all the reasons I committed to OU in the first place, they're all still there, right? The sole mission, my connection with the staff, it hasn't changed. And if OU's still the place when it comes down to it, then it's still the place. Like I won't think twice about committing there." But
Yeah.
certainly Texas is in the mix. He's got what's interesting here is he lived in Lincoln, Nebraska for quite some time, which gives the Cornhuskers an interesting leg to stand on in this race, if you will. He's going to be up there in April, I believe. Well, not for their spring game, but for whatever they're replacing their spring game with. The weekend that would traditionally be reserved for the spring game, he'll be back in Lincoln. So I know that's a program he's very high on. Texas A&M in the mix, Oregon in the mix, the usual suspects, right? Uh,
Mm.
Interesting detail. Well, and the prospect that I'm about to launch into a spiel on is Paris Melvin, four-star athlete out of Cypress, Texas, and Oklahoma's recruiting him as a cornerback. And the reason that's interesting to me, Brandon, is because if you watch Paris Melvin, you watch him on film, you watch him in person, he's very clearly not a cornerback. And I don't mean that in the sense that like he can't play it or it's foreign to him, but in the sense that he is a pure athlete.
Mm.
He is a guy that can do a lot of different things on the football field, could play both ways at the next level. But Oklahoma likes him at cornerback, which is a position he's very capable of playing. But when you look at Jay Valai's takes since he got to Oklahoma, he was kind of grandfathered into the Jacoby Johnson recruitment, right?
Yeah.
But think about it. Josiah Wagner, Davon Jordan, Jeremiah Newcomb,
Mhm.
Eli Bowen, Cortland Guillory, Malik Hawkins. Tristan Haynes is kind of an exception, but like the guys that I mentioned, what do they all have in common? They are pure corners.
Yeah.
Like that's their thing, and that's what they roll with. And that's what they've been bred to play. So
Mhm.
I think it's interesting that here in the 26 class, Valai is making a push for two guys in Melvin and Brandon Arrington, the outstanding athlete, five-star athlete out of the state of California. Two guys that are really good football players, but
Mhm.
that aren't corners specifically.
No, they can play multiple. They can play slot, wide receiver, like they're punt returner, kick returner. Like they're multifaceted players, particularly Brandon Arrington, which surprisingly I think Texas A&M, Oklahoma, USC, Oregon seem to be the four teams that get mentioned the most with him. He's obviously tripped, I believe, to Georgia, and I want to say Ohio State, I believe, was the other one. Parker, don't quote me on that, but um, yeah, he's I I don't know much about Melvin like you do. Like I didn't even realize that Oklahoma was pushing as hard. But Arrington is interesting and could be one of Oklahoma's maybe one or two 5 stars that they could land in the 2026 class. And there's not a lot of people that give Arrington and Oklahoma a chance. Like when you, I guess I don't want to say that. They give them a chance, but they don't look at them like they do A&M right now. But if you talk to people in Norman, like they feel somewhat decent of their chances there. And mainly because that dude just keeps showing up to Oklahoma. Like it's just like every few months, boom, 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 boom. So we'll see how that part plays out. Um, Braden Presley's a dude, bro. Like that guy,
Hmm.
he went off this weekend. Um, Special player and was named top performer at the red zone, 7-on-7 Sooner shootout, 7-on-7 this weekend. Again, Samaj Stanford in the 2027 class. Caden Jones, this is 2 weekends in a row that I've seen him, and I can't, I just can't put into words. He is actually going to play with Sooner 7 in the battle tournament in New Orleans. So he's switching allegiance, not from his dad with the unit, but like he's going to play with Sooner 7 in battle. So that one will be interesting. And there may be a few other surprises in New Orleans with Sooner 7. So we'll see how that plays out. Just keep in mind that we said that to you all. Um, yeah, there were a couple of players. There's man, I can't remember his last name. There's a 2028 kid from Norman North, John Paul. Um, oh, I can't remember his last name. I'll have to ask Dusty Dvorak. He's the one that put me on him, and he got him in with Sooner 7 this weekend, and that dude carried their 15U, 16U, whatever you want to call it. He was a flat out dude. Can play safety, can play linebacker, can play wide receiver. He's an amazing baseball player. Um, Man, I hope somebody knows who I'm talking about in the chat that is around Norman North. But
Hey,
kid can
let me
flat
float.
go.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of the state of Oklahoma, let me float an interesting question to you. And I actually have a piece coming tomorrow on OUinsider.com that asks and answers a similar question. But in the 2026 class right now, there are 6 players in state that have an OU offer: Mason James, Caden Jones, Taj Overton, Dejon Ackerson, Braden Presley, and Evanson Malaska.
Mm-hmm.
Who is next? If you had to make a bet as to who the next in-state player, if any, adds an offer from Oklahoma, who are you going with?
Oh man, let me pull it up real quick. You probably know who I'm going to say. Uh,
I do not know who you're going to say. I mean, I feel that there are at least 6 or 7 answers that carry equal validity.
I might maybe Dana McMorris.
And that's who I would go with,
Yeah,
just because
offensive lineman Norman North. Yeah,
circumstantially speaking, it feels like the table is set nicely for him to get an OU offer.
agreed.
And what I mean by that is it comes on the heels, right? This 2026 cycle comes on the heels of a year where Oklahoma landed 2 big-time tackles in Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje that are expected to play and contribute early. And so you're going to have a difficult time, as we've discussed, trying to talk a guy like a Felix Ojo into coming to town when you just took 2 absolute studs in the 25 cycle that they have to worry about competing with or potentially sitting behind. So for McMorris, a guy who's 6'5", virgin on 6'6", in the neighborhood of 275, 280 pounds. Like there's still some work that needs to be done there physically. He needs to put on weight. He needs to refine his technique. Like he's a basketball player by trade, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
found a niche on the football field. And he's not somebody that you necessarily would expect to be on the field year 1 or year 2. I would almost compare him to like a Logan Howland, right? And he was
Mm-hmm.
on the field a lot in year 2, but only out of necessity. In an ideal world, Oklahoma would have kept him stashed for another year and unleashed him in year 3 or even year 4, right? And I think you can
Yeah.
take a similar approach with Daniel McMorris. And I think if McMorris is being realistic with himself, there's probably an understanding that okay, I'm going to need some seasoning before I'm ready to get thrown into the fire, and I don't have to rush anything. I can let Fasusi and Foje have their day, as it were, before I jump in. And in the meantime, I'll get sharpened by one of the business's top technicians in Bill Bedenbaugh. And so I think because of the presence of Fasusi and Foje, because of the fact that McMorris's ceiling is so, so, so high, I mean, immensely high ceiling with all his physical
Mm-hmm.
tools, as well as the fact that he is right down the road, I'm frankly surprised that offer hasn't come his way yet. And I know Oklahoma, as we've discussed on OUinsider.com, has been building a relationship with him. And it may just be that, they realize if we offer this kid, not only do we have to take him, but he's probably going to commit pretty fast. So we should better
Mm-hmm.
make sure we're 100% confident that this is the direction we want to go. But I I will wager that Daniel McMorris winds up in Oklahoma's class. I don't necessarily know what the timeline is going to be on OU pulling the trigger, but I find it hard to believe that when push comes to shove, the Sooners don't go ahead and get involved with the 6'5", 275-pound Norman North
Mm-hmm.
tackle.
Josh Sosa 2.0. Um, what about Xavier? I'm gonna try to not butcher it. Oak Okafluwazi. Is that how you spell it? Say it?
Relatively close. Okwufuluwezi.
Okafluwazi. Okay, cool. Um, he's obviously out of a smaller private school, Rejoice Christian in Owasso, but he doesn't play against great talent. But I know when I sent him over to Craig Hubert at Under Armour, he didn't have an invite. I said, "Do y'all even know about this kid?" And they're like, "We do not. That dude needs to have an invite like 3 months ago." And I said, "Yes, he does." And so he had basketball, so he couldn't make it. But um, I would expect him at Rivals, and he's actually somebody that I could see. Like, I know this sounds crazy right now. I could see him getting a fourth star, like
Yeah,
down the
no,
line,
I don't think
if
that's
he
crazy at all.
keeps
I mean,
balling out.
he's a high 3 as of today, right? 5.7 on Rivals, which is the highest rating that a 3-star can attain before you cross over into 4-star status. And I think what's clear when you watch Okufuloezi's film is he is an elite athlete. I mean, he's playing 1A competition at
Yeah.
Rejoice Christian, right? So he is an elite athlete. That shows up. That is unquestionable. It's hard to tell if he's an elite football player. And those are two different things, right? Because at the 1A level, you're going to dominate if you're an elite football player, but you're also going to dominate if you're an elite athlete. At the 6A level, elite football players will dominate. Elite athletes, maybe not so much. So I I wonder if the kid just transfers to Owasso. Like I think from a business standpoint, if if he were to play his senior year at Owasso, that might be pretty good for him because I think that would validate like if he performed well in that setting, that would validate to a lot of folks, a lot of doubters that are unclear about just how good at football he actually is, as opposed to just being athletically superior to everyone he goes up against. That would validate that, okay, he's not just an athlete, he's an elite football player.
Mhm.
And so I don't know what the future holds for him, but yeah, he's a fun sleeper. I mean, sleeper no longer, right? Because
No.
his name is out there. He's starting to roll up the offers. I would figure I think he picked up 2 or 3 new ones today, and he'll probably, by the end of it all, be a 2025 offer guy. As to where he winds up, I'm not really sure. The natural obstacle to him landing at Oklahoma right now is the fact that Emmett Jones has built such a ridiculous board. Like,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean they get all of their desired targets, right? But you have so many dudes, right? I mean, even a guy like Jordan Clay, whom we haven't talked about a ton at all. I mean, the names that we've circulated the most are certainly those of Mason James, Alger Miles, like Jaden Warren, Davian Gross, guys like that. Jordan Clay, top 100 player in the nation, who's long been considered to be a guy that probably winds up picking between Texas and Baylor when push comes to shove.
Mhm.
He's OVing to Oklahoma for the Champion Barbecue. So Emmett's always got a trick or two up his sleeve, but to me, like Okwuefuluezi is the perfect break glass in case of emergency guy
Yeah.
in June or July. Like, let's say you wind up high and dry and you want to take four receivers and OV season comes and goes and you only have three. That is the first call you make. First call you make
100%.
when you're ready to expand the board. I don't think there's any question. It makes too much sense.
What there's this notion again because obviously we were talking about Daniel McMorris, right?
Hmm.
And one of the first things that popped up was, and I'm gonna call him Bagman out. Appreciate you, Bagman. Love that you're always on here. Love that you're always talking to us. It just caught my eye. The comment caught my eye. Here we go again. Bill Bedenbaugh recruiting Jags at offensive tackle again. And I'm trying to think back to all the
Yo,
Jags that he recruited.
and yeah, look, I've said this before.
Like
Every
he's
so
a
often, every so often, Bill takes a guy that I'm just like, what? Colin Montgomery is a great example of this. I remember when he took Colin Montgomery, I'm sitting there going, really?
Mhm.
But for every one of those guys, right, there's five or six guys that turn out to be either serviceable or downright good.
But here's the weird part
So,
about Colin Montgomery is I went down and watched him play basketball. And at that point in time, and that's probably what Bill Bedenbaugh saw is what I saw. Like the dude's feet were freaking phenomenal for such a big dude. But then you have to look at it. He struggled with his weight while playing basketball.
yes.
And,
That's hard to do too.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like that, and I always had that in the back of my mind. Like maybe he's gonna have issues when he gets to college and stops running up and down the court during the off season. And he did. That was like the first thing that happened was he ballooned up a little bit too big. Jacob Matthews, appreciate the super chat again. If you guys want to see the question answered, super chat's the best way to do it. Appreciate everybody that takes part in that. Um, just joined, so sorry if y'all have covered him already. But what have y'all heard about Jacob Henry, son of Mark Henry, obviously the WWF or WWE superstar back in the day with the United States singlet kind of deal. He's a former wrestler, all that type of stuff, just like his son Jacob Henry is at the University of Oklahoma. The funny part is about Jacob Henry is he grew up a big Texas fan. Mark Henry is like a diehard UT guy. Like they're hook 'em all day, and he's a big Oklahoma guy now. But yeah, he's playing on the OU team. He walked on. I don't know exactly how that's gonna translate. He's a little bit shorter, but there are some people that I've talked to that said he's an absolute brute, like just strong, and he's got really good feet. He just has no freaking clue what he's doing. And maybe that turns into something. Maybe Todd Bates can mold that into just a masterpiece down the line. But I don't know how you can do that if you're still working on being a wrestler. And on top of that, he's already signed a contract with WWE for after college, by the way. So I think he knows where his future's at. This, I guess, maybe goes into his storyline arc when he goes into WWE. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what this whole plan is, but I something will follow. Obviously, just haven't heard a whole lot about him. Um, spring starting up in T minus what is it today? Third, 3 days, 2 days now.
Three
Um,
days.
3 days. Well, I don't count today. Today being the third, so I just said, I guess, yeah, whatever. Three. Um, who are you most? First off, for me today, who are you most excited to talk to? And who are you most excited to potentially see? I like that's the other question I have is like with the spring game being shut out, are we going to get open practices?
I sure hope so. And again, I feel like I say this every single spring camp, every single fall camp. Just a suggestion. But from where I stand, as the media, I would much rather get to watch 90 minutes or 2 hours of practice with no cameras or live reporting permitted
Yeah.
than watch 20 minutes of practice and have cameras all over the place and whatever access we need. Like to me, the more ball we can see in the
Mhm.
spring, the better. And I do think that fan base would appreciate that a little bit more as well.
Of course, I would also like to see some video of what we're talking about, but
They would, but
at the same time, there's a give and take, and if we can provide that to you guys, that would be great too. Just and not even from a business perspective, from an actual perspective of giving some sort of access to the fans, and if we can be the conduit, that would be great. Just because it beats the alternative of getting nothing, right? So obviously I would love to be able to also video and be able to, hey guys, look at what we just saw happen. This is awesome. And they did that the last 2 years during spring. It was like they gave you like 30 minutes with camera, and then after that you had like an hour and 30 minutes, maybe an hour and 15 of you can sit there and type on your phone, but you can't be recording anything. If they catch you, you're out, and you're never coming back. Yeah, I don't know. Like, is there anybody you're excited to talk? I think Jim Nagy. I'm excited to
yeah.
hear what he has to say. I'm excited to meet him in person and get to know him, obviously. But I want to know what his plan is for not just the NIL landscape, but like roster building. Like, give the fans and the media, us, his idea of what his roster structure is to compete in the SEC. And I think that's what everybody. I think it's the number one thing everybody wants to know.
And I'm also curious to like I would like for him to articulate, and I would imagine he'll be given the opportunity to, but why Oklahoma? Why now?
Yes.
Why jump into the collegiate game here in 2025 with Oklahoma specifically? And we all can rationalize that however we so choose, but I'll be very interested to see or to hear how the man himself answers that question.
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I outside of that, obviously John Mateer, but we've heard from John Mateer a couple times, whether being with
We
you guys
have.
on
We have.
KREF and whatnot. But still, to get another piece, it'd be great to get Ben Arbuckle, right?
Well, isn't he doing something at the spring game?
Yeah. Does the media get access to him, or is it
I don't know
fans?
what we'll have access to and what we won't have access to at the spring game,
Yeah.
but shoot, Nagy, Venables, all the newcomers on Wednesday. I'll take
So,
it.
of the newcomers, who are you excited to talk to?
It's always fun talking to Marcus Wimberly. That'll be a fun conversation. And then some of the transfers that are coming in, there's a lot of these guys we just don't know a whole lot about.
Mhm.
And so, I'm interested to see who surprises us. There's always somebody, right? Think back a couple of years, the first time we got to talk to Caleb Schaefer. Remember Caleb
Yeah.
Schaefer? We're like,
Yeah.
man, what a fantastic interview this kid is. So I wonder if there'll be anybody like that you
Uh,
don't necessarily expect to just be the absolute best in that setting, but
yeah.
they turn out to be.
I'm excited to talk with Marvin Jones again, just because
Yeah,
he's
that's a reunion.
yeah, yeah, that was my guy back in the day. I I'm excited to hear his thoughts now that he's been to Georgia and Florida State. Like, what are his initial thoughts on Oklahoma now that he's been there culturally? Like, he went from the highest of highs, right, with Georgia to just the lowest of lows with Florida State. Where does Oklahoma fit culturally in his mind? right? You compare to what he witnessed and went through at Florida State and why he transferred, like a place that he grew up loving. His dad was playing there, played there, is like an all-time great there, like revered there. And he wanted to get out of there so fast, so fast. Like he hated it. And he had one of his best seasons, obviously. Um, but at the same time, you could just tell that structurally, culturally, that he wasn't having fun. And so I'm interested to hear his thoughts on Georgia, where he spent 2 years, won a national title, played for another, right? Or at least played in the playoffs in another. And you know what I mean? And then obviously went to Florida State with the lowest of lows. And if Oklahoma is, in his mind, even remotely close to getting to where they need to be, not just culturally, but team wise, that he can tell within like the first 3 4 months that he's been in Norman. So that's going to be interesting to me. I think another guy that I want the fans to get to know and that I want the media to get to know is Amarian Robinson, because his story is amazing. For those people that don't know, like he's lost two brothers, got murdered, right? Like sad, sad deal. Grew up the way that he grew up. And yet he always had the biggest, his smile lights up the room. He's the best kid in the world. And he's a dad at this age, like with a 1 year old daughter. So, like, his story is amazing. And I hope the fans get to see and know him for how we know him. He's just a great, great kid.
Another
Um,
$5 super chat from Jacob Matthews, who asked, any guesses who's tight end one when spring starts, or is it just a wide open competition? Give me Kanik. And yeah, I think that's the most wide open
yeah, talk
position
about
amongst
Kanik. Let's do
right
that.
now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Kanik's transition, from everything we heard, has been pretty smooth just from an athleticism and
Mhm.
responsibility. And it is hard to tell right now. And we should preface it with that. Like, it's hard to tell because they're not in pads, running the full playbook yet. But from what we have heard and what people have seen, people in the building have seen from Kanik since he made that switch and since he converted over to the offensive side of the ball, they're encouraged, man. They think there's something there. And I I guess what I'm most interested to see is what does his role actually look like? If we want to get a little bit more specific than, oh, he's playing the tight end H back role. Like, what situations are you using him in? Are you using him like, are you throwing him passes? Is he a primarily receiving tight end? Is he a guy that, your goal is to get him the ball? Do you want to maybe use him as a puller, lead blocker, absorb some contact, being as nasty and as violent he is in the run game? I'm not exactly sure what like how you use Jaron Kanik as opposed to some of the other tight ends in the room, I
Yeah.
suppose. Um, there's no clear leader in the clubhouse as to who's going to occupy that starting role come week one. It could just as easily be Jaron Kanik as it could be Devon Mitchell or Cade McIntyre or Caden Helms
I
or
think you just
Carson
named the
Kent.
guys that probably, those are probably the 4 or 5 guys that you think, right, that are going to compete, right? Like those are the guys, right?
I mean, and Will Huggins is apparently super freaking athletic. It hasn't amounted to much of anything yet on a college football field, but there's that.
Yeah, we've heard that. I've heard that one before. Um, Obviously, Power Sharp's probably going to kill it at LSU, but that's neither here nor there. Before we move on, real quickly, I want to thank our sponsor, uh, obviously at Refine You Med Spa. Achieving a healthy weight can be challenging to do on your own, but you're not alone. The skilled team at Refine You Med Spa offers treatments that complement weight loss goals and long term weight loss support so you achieve a weight that supports good health and self esteem. You can achieve your ideal look and feel with Refine U's state of the art practices that offer a diverse selection of aesthetic treatments, providing services that benefit every body shape and skin type. Whether you've got marks on your body that you want removed, they can help you with that. Whether you've got that midsection that you want gone, they can help you with that. Obviously, they got the semaglutide shots. They got whatever you want, whether you're male, female, Whether you're a man that wants to give a nice little gift to your wife, she wants Botox, lip filler, all that. They take care of that for you at Refine You Med Spa. It has also been voted the number one med spa in Oklahoma City for the past 5 years by 405 Magazine, mainly because they don't sell procedures, they sell results. So make sure you call Refine You Med Spa today to get a free consultation at 405-849-5391 or book online at refineyouokc.com. All right. Before we get out of here, before we move any further, let's people are asking the basketball question. Does Porter Moser make it out? Is he the OU coach in the 25-26 season?
Yeah, here's the thing, Brandon, and here's what's going to complicate things all the more. You would think that with as many games as Oklahoma has dropped, like hand over fist in conference play, right? That they would be safely out of the tournament picture at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case. Like, they don't even have to win their last two this week in the regular. Like, I don't even think they need to go 2 for 2 this week, and they probably won't. But like, even if they did, they're in pretty safely. But because the bubble is so weak,
It's
if
so
they
bad.
split this week, like if they split, they could very well be a 15 loss at large team.
And,
That's
and
very much within the realm of possibility, which is nuts. But like, and I guess here's where things get tricky. What if you backdoor your way into the tournament as one of the last 4 teams in the field
hmm,
with an at-large bid, and you're like 19 and 15, and then you go and lose in the round of 64 because, of course, right? And do you feel any better about that if you're an OU fan? Like, is there any
no.
satisfaction whatsoever to be found in that? Like, you made the tournament, great. That's a first in the Moser era, but any other year, you're probably on the outside looking in.
How hilarious would it be if they were one of the first P4s to play in the like big name P4s to play in the playing game?
Oh no, there have been plenty of P4 teams that have played in
No,
the
a
play.
big name P4s.
Yeah, it's happened before.
There's been an SEC team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Tennessee was in the first 4 like last year, I think.
They were
Or
in
not
the
last year, a couple years
playing.
ago.
They were in the playing.
Yeah,
Why do I
Ole
not
Miss has
remember
been in the
that?
playing game. Like, yeah, the playing games. Yeah, I mean, you have two
Why
of
do I
them that
not
are.
remember that? Probably because I didn't watch it because of the playing game. But why do I not remember that?
Yeah, you get big teams in the playing games all the time because there are 4 of them.
Well, I know there's four. There's one in each bracket, but like I just always never really paid attention. I always saw like the Hofstras of the world and the Vermonts and stuff like that that were in the playing game. Never paid attention to the big name one. I mean, if they win the playing game, that would be cool. At least you got to win in the NCAA tournament, right? Get to roll into that quote quote second round, whatever they call that. And it's funny, like the first round is the second round now. The round of 64 is round two because of the play-in.
I know,
It's
it's
so
dumb.
stupid. So stupid.
Hashtag
Um,
shrink the game.
100%. But
Bring
yeah,
it
if
back
they
down to
if they beat
64.
Missouri this week, yeah, they're in. Like they're in. That's the weirdest thing. Like they could
Like
lose the
if they
first game
and
of the
I
SEC
don't think they're
tournament.
going to beat Missouri, but like if Missouri was the team they beat, you're right. I think that would stamp it. Like
Oh, it
I
would.
think they're safely in the field at that point with how many quad 1 wins they have, which
And
is nuts.
it's
Again,
but the nutty part is they're not like they're like a 9 or 10 seed still. Like how is that possible? What is
the
going?
bubble's just that weak.
It's so bad. It's like yeah, 10 seed Oklahoma, bro. They've lost half their games. What the
Here's what'll
heck?
probably happen though. They'll get close against Missouri, and then
Yeah,
who are the
just like
two?
they did against Ole
Yeah,
Miss.
one of the two Oklahoma kids, either T.O. Barrett or Trent Pierce, will hit a dagger to beat them. That's been the theme lately.
By the way, Dayton Forsythe, what a baller he had. He
I'm
became
telling you, man,
last night.
here's the thing. That's going to be my barometer this offseason for whether or not to whether or not to believe that there's anything there for OU basketball next season. If Dayton Forsyth is still on the team, great. If he bounces, okay, we're done here.
Well, what if they got rid and they hired Kellen Sampson and he brought in just dudes? Because again, if,
I think it would take a year. I think it would take a year.
I mean, maybe, but here's the thing is the one thing you can guarantee is if Kellen Sampson was the coach, the donors would open up their pocket, the coffers would open up a little bit more just because of the name, the nostalgia of the winning, the Final Fours, the Elite Eights, the Sweet 16s, the three straight Big 12, championships, right? Like that. Those were the days, right? Back when his dad was coaching. So, and obviously Kellen was around when they won under Capel and helped when they won under Kruger, right? Like those were that was. Has he been around losing yet? Maybe that 1 year under Jeff Capel and the
Not very much.
first year under Kruger, and that was it. It's crazy. All right. Bagman said, I'm convinced Joe Cheap is fine with having a mediocre basketball program. I don't know about that. I think everybody wants to be good at something, but I get the sentiment just because of how things have been lately. But I don't think that's true. All right. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live powered by Riverwind Casino. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, subscribe. $9.95 a month for OU Insider VIP, which is not that the YouTube, the podcast, those are all free if you subscribe. Make sure you give a like, make sure you give thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever you got to do right here. Make sure that you help us when you do that. I promise you, you guys do. $9.95 a month, $99.95 for the whole year at OU Insider VIP. I dropped like, I think it was like a five, between both, it was like 10,000 word between part one and part two of team notes, and they were loaded with information. Our members loved it. They were like, holy crap, this was awesome. So make sure you are on there. You get behind the scenes of what's going on with the OU football standouts, the changing of the guard with the training. Like some of the stuff that I was told as far as the training and the medical staff, Parker, was just unbelievable. And that's all right there in those notes. Big time notes. Parker's dropped a bunch of recruiting notes. I had several recruiting notes last week. There's a huge top 100 defensive player that set another visit to Oklahoma for early April. We got that up there on the board. Parker's dropped several notes already today with his 4-piece. All that. We got more coming this week. Obviously, spring interviews are starting. We're going to have team notes for you guys. We're going to have a ton of interview, ton of team stuff, ton of spring ball stuff for you guys. Basketball coverage, softball coverage, baseball coverage, baseball, softball, hot right now. They just keep winning. So there's that. And then obviously, we'll have there's a big visit weekend for Oklahoma as well. We'll have that covered for you. We'll have everything for you over there on OU Insider VIP. Again, $9.95 a month, $9.95 for the whole year. If you're a college student, if you're a military person active, and you have a active.edu email or an active military email, and you email us at ouinsider@rivals.com, and you say, hey, I want that promo that you're offering for that 1 year at $11.95. We will email you back with that promo code, and you get OU Insider 1 year for $11.95. That's less than $1 a day. So make sure you give that a try again. Have to email from .edu. Doesn't matter what college you go to, what school you go to. As long as you email us from that .edu at ouinsider@rivals.com, we will send you that promo code as well as active military. We love our military. Thank you guys so much for your service. We want to help you guys out. $11.95 for the whole year if you're a big OU fan. Just email us from your active duty military, proof that you're active duty, and we will send you the promo code. All right. For Parker Thune, for Spencer Forsythe on the board, my name is Brandon Drumm. You guys have a blessed day.